Peace and blessings, y'all. Welcome to GOAT James Kingdom. This episode is about the graph that shook up the GOAT conversation world. Now, if you had a chance to watch the show, you heard me explain what this graph is about. This is basically the ultimate help versus comp comparison between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. But since we've posted this graph, we have been hearing a lot and people have been trying to discredit one thing after another, but they really can't. This is one of the greatest graphs we've ever created here in GOAT James Kingdom. Basically, this graph is just showing all of these categories on who LeBron James had on his team or Michael Jordan had on his team or who they faced in the playoffs. The red means that they had less, the green means they had more, and obviously the white means it's neutral. So all the categories that you see listed here, again, are basically things that were stated to us in our group. As you can read here, here is someone talking about Scottie Pippen not averaging 20 points per game for his career and only able to average 22 once in his career. These are the things that we hear all the time. So again, these are the things that were put on the graph so that we can compare who's really a good player or not beside Michael Jordan or LeBron James, or who are opposing Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Here's another one, complaining about the All-NBA and All-Defensive selections, which are the things that we use to show how a player is better or not. But they do not like this because it obliterates their whole logic about LeBron James' teammates and Michael Jordan's teammates and also their competition. So since we can't use these accolades because they don't want to use that, they don't want to use the 20 points per game for a player, then tell me what makes Dwayne Wade better than Scottie Pippen. But we will show you right here how Scottie Pippen was more help than Dwayne Wade. So let's go on ahead and compare all the teams that Michael Jordan had faced to show who had more help and more competition. Michael Jordan's first 3 playoffs were against great teams. As you can see here, they are in the green because they check off in more categories than the Chicago Bulls. And we all know what happened these first 3 seasons when Michael Jordan ended up in the playoffs. Now, MJ's next 2 postseasons, he did have a little bit more help. And as you can see, in 1988, the Chicago Bulls faced 2 teams who had no All-NBA players, no All-Defensive players. LeBron James has never faced a playoff where he had to face 2 teams like that. Michael Jordan did in 1988. Not only that, 1988 is the famous Michael Jordan year, where Michael Jordan was the league MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, scoring champ, steals champ. He was All-NBA first team, All-Defensive first team. He was the All-Star MVP. They love to talk about 1988 season, but not the playoffs. And that is because they got annihilated by the Detroit Pistons in 1988. But in 1989, Michael Jordan came in ready to take full lead of the Chicago Bulls. And this is the only year in Michael Jordan's career where he had no one on his team reach any of the categories listed on this criteria. But in '89, he was still able to go up against the Cavs, which was basically a neutral team. He was able to beat the Knicks, which were better than him, but again fell short to the Detroit Pistons, who basically added 2 all-defensive players to the roster from the year before. Now, 1990 is the year supposedly that Scottie Pippen stepped into his form, and the Bulls had obviously a better team than these teams, but it was the same results for the Bulls. The results would be different, though, when we get to 1991. Even though the Chicago Bulls were better than all the teams, again, going into this playoffs, they were able to win a championship and beat the Lakers. The Bulls get their first championship. So we go into the next season, and Scottie Pippen is in full form now. The Chicago Bulls are just better than any team they faced in 1992. Moving on to 93, which was the Bulls' last championship of their first three-peat. As you can see here, again, the Chicago Bulls were just better than their competition. He had more help. MJ quits the game of basketball, and then he comes back in 95, and here it is the first time we see a green since 1989. And that will be the last green we will see from Michael Jordan's playoff competition. From here on out, the Chicago Bulls had one of the greatest teams that ever existed in NBA history. The 1996 Chicago Bulls had 2 All-NBA first teams, 3 All-Defensive first teams. That only happened in 1983, which was the Philadelphia 76ers. Also, this is another postseason where Michael Jordan faced 2 teams who didn't have an All-NBA or All-Defensive selected player on their roster. Then in 97, the Chicago Bulls also have the better team than anybody they faced besides the Utah Jazz when they got to the finals. Now, the Utah Jazz, as you can see, was neutral, and the Bulls ended up winning that series. And this is MJ's last postseason, where you can see, obviously, Michael Jordan played against a bunch of teams that were not better than him. So throughout Michael Jordan's career, his teams were always better. Now we'll move on to LeBron James postseasons. And as you can see here, the first 3 postseasons for LeBron already had more teams in the green than Michael Jordan's 13 postseasons all put together. Also, these are 3 postseasons where LeBron James' teammates did not check off on any category like Michael Jordan's teammates did in 1989, which was the only season for Michael Jordan. Add to that, LeBron James started his playoff career by playing the Detroit Pistons in '06, who had 2 All-NBA players and 3 All-Defensive players, a type of opponent that Michael Jordan never faced. And lastly, like Michael Jordan's first 3 postseasons, they faced tougher competition, but LeBron was able to win at least 5 series. Jordan couldn't win 5 games. And y'all know I always have more. It took Detroit and Boston 7 games to beat the Cavaliers with LeBron. So we'll move on to the next 2 postseasons of LeBron James' career, where Cleveland started to give him some help, where he had Mo Williams make an All-Star in '09, and he also had Varejao make the All-Defensive team in 2010. But the Cleveland Cavaliers faced some good teams like Orlando, and they lost in that series, and they faced Boston again, which they lost in that series. Now, we all know what happened after Boston. LeBron James takes his talents down to South Beach, and now he has more help for him to be able to face the opponents that he faces. There's the infamous 2011 Finals where he loses to Dallas, and then there's also the next season where he goes on ahead and wins the championship for the first time in his career and faces an OKC team that was actually better than the Heat. After winning his first championship, the Miami Heat continue on to go to the next season and win a championship again, and then go on into the 2014 NBA Finals where they lose to the San Antonio Spurs in record fashion. LeBron will eventually leave Miami, but as you can see, while in Miami, the Heat were better than most of their opponents. But LeBron decides to leave all of this help in Miami and go back to Cleveland, which was a lottery pick team at the time he joined them in 2015. He gets Kevin Love added to the team by trading over the first pick of Wiggins. But if you look here, LeBron James' Cleveland Cavaliers were not as good as the Miami Heat, because as they go into the playoffs, they face teams that were actually better than them, like the Chicago Bulls or the Golden State Warriors in the 2015 Finals. But 2016 is the year that LeBron James officially becomes the GOAT of the NBA world. This is the year LeBron James goes into the playoffs without any All-NBA or All-Defensive selected players or any All-Star selected players on his roster. They basically make it all the way to the finals versus the 73-9 defending champion Golden State Warriors. In 2016, LeBron James had one of the greatest playoff performances of all time for the playoffs, not to mention what he did in the finals, which is the greatest finals performance in NBA history. They went down 3-1 to Golden State and came back, the only team to do that in the finals. Not only that, LeBron James himself has the greatest finals performance in NBA history. He led all categories in points, blocks, steals, assists, and rebounds for all players on both teams. No player has ever done that in a 7-game series, and he did it in the finals versus the 73-9 Warriors. But the Cavs were not done, as the next 2 seasons they would actually make the finals again, but this time the league was on notice, and Kevin Durant goes and joins the 73-9 Warriors, and now LeBron James makes it to the finals and he faces them twice, and as you can see, they were just better than LeBron James' team. Even when Kyrie Irving left in 2018, LeBron James was still able to take his team all the way to the finals. But the key thing again about all of this is all of the green. As you can see, even when he was in the Cleveland Cavaliers at the second stint, he faced more teams that were in the green than Michael Jordan did in his entire career. And to just finish it off, LeBron James ends up going to the Los Angeles Lakers, where they eventually trade for Anthony Davis. And this is the first time in LeBron James' career he gets something that Michael Jordan got 5 times in his career, which is a player that can make the All-Star game, the All-NBA, and the All-Defensive team all in the same year. That is what Anthony Davis gave the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James in 2020. And they ended up winning one of the toughest championships of all time by playing during a pandemic. This is what LeBron James' career consists of when we're talking about help and competition. In 2021, they were actually better than the Suns as well. And the Lakers couldn't overcome that series, which is actually the first round loss for LeBron James in his entire career. So as you can see, LeBron James has faced some real tough competition and didn't have that much help to face such competition. And that's why LeBron James had less help versus more competition than Michael Jordan. Although Michael Jordan may have faced some tough competition, but having the help that he had made that competition less than what LeBron had to face. So as you can see, if we just go ahead and just look by the colors alone, because some of you guys just cannot handle this information, you can see that LeBron James actually faced tougher competition. And obviously LeBron James had less help to face such competition. So that means LeBron James had less help versus more competition than Michael Jordan. If you guys can't handle it, you could always come on our show. We go live every Sunday. You're more than welcome to join us and speak about basketball. Welcome to GOAT James Kingdom.